You guys have dreams and aspirations, right? You know, things you want to do in life. Well, I do. Part of mine's under here, under this tarp, behind these trash cans. Want to see? That's a big old pile of sand. Germinating native plants. That's what I want to do. I want to start a native plant nursery. And this is the beginnings of it. So I got a whole bunch of pawpaws here that I already have a buyer for next year. They're 1-year-old seedlings. You can see one of them there. They're still springy, still alive. Haven't killed them yet. That's success. I got 249 other seeds germinating, or hopefully going to germinate next year. They are stratifying right now, just like the things in those trays right there, which is what I want to talk about in this video. These over here and those over there are two different species in the Juglandaceae family, and they're walnuts. This is an endangered species. They're under these chicken wire pieces weighed down by rocks and boards over there because we have chipmunks around here, and they're very cute, but they are terrorists, and they've been stealing these things, and I don't want them to do that. So trying to keep them out this way. These are butternuts, white walnuts, endangered species that I did a video about a while back, trying to get those going. And those are black walnuts over there, not endangered at all, kind of common, but I like them and I want more of them, and I think I can sell them. Things in these trays here, these are special made trays I'll talk about in a little bit that I built. And the top 3 are empty, but the ones down here you see species names on them because I have them planted with things. Now, germinating wild plants is not like germinating garden varieties of domesticated plants. Wild plants have to figure out a lot of stuff for themselves. Part of what we have bred into domesticating domesticated species is that their seeds will be shelf stable. Then when we decide to put them in the ground, we do all the thinking for them. We put them in the ground when the time is right, and we provide the water when the time is right. And then they just sprout. Wild plants are different. They have to figure all that's out for themselves. Like I said, imagine the seed becomes ripe in the fall, falls on the ground. If it sprouts immediately, for some species in some temperate areas, that might be doom. It's gonna sprout and then just immediately be killed by winter. So what I'm doing here is called cold stratification. It is winter right now. It's kind of an unseasonably warm day, but it is winter nonetheless. And here we have damp soil where I have this Maryland golden aster surface sown here and spritz with water, and it's just hanging out here going through the natural winter. You can also mimic this by, if you're in June and you just need to trick a plant, you can do the same thing, put it in some damp soil and put it in the fridge or the freezer and leave it there for a while. When you take it out, what has happened is what would naturally happen in the wild. The plant says, okay, I have experienced cold now, and now it's warm. Must be spring. Time to go. So it starts to sprout. Many wild plants need this cold stratification to let them know that they've gone through winter and it's time to sprout. I'm trying to do it naturally here. So I have these trays built, and they're kind of built them to stack, so they have these little screws sticking out the top. That matches up with holes on the bottom in each corner, and so they can stack without falling over and properly align themselves. And they'll just sit out here in a stack, and I'll come by every so often and spritz them with water, make sure they're still wet enough. And in the spring I will separate out the stack into sort of tables, which I will hopefully build up here on this landing. And when they begin to sprout up, I'll pick them out one by one, pot them into individual pots. And yeah, so I've got 4 different species going right here. Carolina rose, ironweed. This is some sort of blue, I think this is called late blue aster or something like that. And then that Maryland golden whatnot that I mentioned earlier, which I'm blanking on the name of now. Anyway, another thing that wild plants kind of need, and this is where it's going to get weird, guys, is scarification. So that's called stratification, going through a cold period. Scarification is very simple. It's actually just scratching the outside of the seed coat. It's scarification, scar. So that happens in the wild in a few ways. First off, the seed could fall on rocky ground, tumble downhill. It could get stepped on by things, or, and this is what I'm going to try to mimic here, I think one of the main ways that it happens in nature, and this is just sort of a hypothesis of mine that I'm going to do a little experiment here. I've already done this a couple times, so I sort of know it works, is in what is called the gizzard of birds. Birds have this sort of secondary organ, kind of like a little stomach, and it's just a little pouch that they pick up little pieces of gravel. They're just pecking at them and picking up little pieces of gravel and some sand and stuff like that, and they hold that in that little pouch. And then they pick up little fruits and things like that, and that goes into that pouch with the rocks and the sand. And then that little muscular pouch, like a stomach, just kind of squeezes around on that. Birds famously don't have teeth, so this is how they get around that. They use rocks and pebbles and sand to sort of abrade off all of this outside fruit. This is actually a dwarf sable minor, dwarf palmetto. The nursery that's going to buy these pawpaws from me also told me that they were very interested in this. So I went out and collected some seeds recently, and I'm going to try to germinate them. But they need scarification. So I think that I'm just going to try to mimic what happens in the bird. All right, so I had to stop because there was sirens in the distance. Apologies for that background noise. But I also went and grabbed this vinegar because the bird has stomach acid as well. You can actually just use typically stronger acids than vinegar to scarify seeds as well, but adding it a little probably won't hurt, as long as I don't leave it in the vinegar too long, because then I'll just pickle the little embryos in there, and that's not what I want to do. So this is all, just went and scooped this up as well. This is just all-purpose mortar sand. You can get it in sort of the masonry section of most big box stores. This is our gizzard. It's a natural latex balloon, so it is biodegradable, but it's also very tough. So the idea is we're going to make an artificial gizzard. All right, there we go. Gizzard is on. Let's put a little bit of sand in there to get it started. The sand's a little wet, so this is going to be a little tricky probably. Is this good TV? Is this making good TV? All right. That's good. This looks good. Everything's good. This is all normal. We've had some fruit, a little bit of fruit, a bit more sand. That's kind of nice. Dropped it from a height and some of it just got shoved down there. Okay, bit more fruit, bit more sand. This is great. This is good stuff. All right. And now, just do a little bit of vinegar in there as well. Not too much. Just enough to sort of wet the contents. I think this little binder clip will do. Separate the gizzard. Put maybe double it over like that. Is that a good idea? Is any of this a good idea? Yeah, there we go. All right, so now we have some fairly abrasive grit in with some seeds inside an elastic pouch. That is basically a gizzard. All that's missing is mechanical action. Alright, I'm back. I'm out of breath. Not as good as hacky sack as I used to be, and I'm not in as good a shape as I used to be. But let's empty this out and see what we got. Alright, so what we're hoping for, what I will call success, is that when we squeeze all this out, we will see fruits. Well, seeds. We won't see fruits. We'll see seeds that have been cleaned of all that fruit tissue around them. Is this good TV? Is this what you guys like to watch? Because now we need to rinse these. I am starting to see clean seeds. Oh yeah, look at that. Perfectly clean seeds. Where is it? Perfectly clean seeds. I'm assuming they have also been scratched fairly thoroughly by that process. Now, the thing is, these are now no longer shelf stable. With that seed coating scratched, water can get in to help them germinate, but water can also get out. So these will dry out and die. The embryo inside will die if we don't keep these moist from now until the point they germinate. So let's get some of that sand over there and let's make up a tray. So I started to mix up this tray of stuff. Now normally what I do for seed starting is I do quite a bit of sand, probably 80% sand, and then I have a small pile of compost on the other side of that, and I'd add the rest would be that compost, and I mix it up, put it in the tray. But these sable palms, they sprout near the beach in pure white sand, so I'm going to skip this step. I'm going to put the sand back, I'm going to bring a tray out and just plant them in straight sand. That's another thing that I think can be a little confusing about germinating plants, is people think that the seedlings need a ton of nutrients. Well, no, the seedlings actually have quite a bit of nutrients stored in them, especially large seeds like these sable palms that are about the size of a garden pea. They have quite a bit of energy and nutrients in there because they are expecting to start to germinate on a layer of sand and be on their own. Very nutrient poor environment to put out a big taproot to reach down into an area that has some water, has some nutrients and things like that. So I think this sand will be just fine, especially considering the fact that as soon as they germinate, I'm going to pluck them out, put them in individual pots. So let's regroup on this.